So, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Wicked and Happy Halloween. So, we finished the Galinda part of In the Gillikin, and now we're in the Bach part. Okay, so Bach 1. Come on out, said the boys. Come out. They were leaning in the archway to Bach's room, a pell-mell clot of them, backlit by the oil lamp in the study beyond. We're sick of books. Come with us. Can't, said Bach. I'm behind in irrigation theory. Frick! Your irrigation theory when the pubs are open, said the strapping Gillikinese bucko named Averick. You're not going to improve your grades at this late date, with the exams almost over and the examiners half crocked to themselves. It's not the grade, said Bach. I just don't understand it yet. We're off to the pub, chanted some boys who, it seemed, had gotten a head start. Frick, Bach. The ale is waiting, and it's already aged enough. Which pub? Maybe I'll join you in the hour, Bach said, sitting firmly back in his chair, not lifting his head to the footstool, else he knew that this might incite his classmates to hoist them to their shoulders and carry him off for an evening of debauchery. His smallness seemed to inspire such banditry. Feet square on the floor made him look more planted, he figured. The boar in the funnel, said Averick. They've got a new witch performing. They say she's hot. She's a Cumbric witch. Ha, said Bach, unconvinced. Oh, go on and get a good view. I'll come when I can. The boys rambled away, rattled doors of other friends, knocking aslant the portraits of old boys now grown into august patrons. Averick stood in the doorway and waited a minute longer. We might ditch some of the bores and take a few select of us off to the philosophy club, he said enticingly. Later on, I mean. It's the weekend after all. Oh, Averick, go take a cold shower, said Bach. You admitted you were curious. You did. So why not an end-of-semester treat? I'm sorry I ever said I was curious. I'm curious about death, too, but I can wait to find out, thank you. Get lost, Averick. Better go catch up with your friends. Enjoy the Cumbric antics, which, by the way, I expect is false advertising. Cumbric witch talents went out hundreds of years ago, if they indeed ever existed. Averick turned up the second collar of his tunic jacket. The inside was lined with a deep red velvet plush. Again, his elegant shaven neck with lining seemed like a single rivulet of privilege. Bach found himself, once again, making a mental comparisons between himself and handsome Averick, and coming up short. What, Averick, he said, and impatient with himself as he was with his friend. Something has happened to you, said Averick. I'm not that dull. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, said Bach. Tell me to mind my own business. Tell me to go fuck yourself. To piss off. Go on, say it, but don't tell me nothing's wrong. You're not that good of a liar, and I'm not that stupid. Even for a dissipated Gillikinese of decaying nobility. His expression was soft, and Bach momentarily was tempted. His mouth opened as he thought of what to say, but at the sound of bells in Ozma Towers chiming the hour, Averick's head turned just a fraction. For all his concern, Averick wasn't entirely here. Bach closed his mouth, thought some more, and said, Call it Munchkinlander stolidity. I won't lie, Averick. You're too good a friend to lie to, but there's nothing to say now. Now go on and enjoy yourself, but be careful. He was about to add a word of warning against the philosophy club, but checked it. If Averick was annoyed enough, then Bach's nannyish worrying might backfire and go Averick into going there. Averick came forward and kissed him on both cheeks and on the forehead, and an upper-class northern custom that always made Bach profoundly at ease. Then with a wink and a dirty gesture, he disappeared. Bach's room looked over a cobblestone alley, down which Averick and his cronies were swooping and weaving. Bach stood back in the shadows, but needn't have worried. His friends were thinking of him now. They made it through the halfway point in their exams and had a breather for a couple days. After the exams, the campus would lie vacant except for a befuddled of the professors and poorer of the boys. Bach had lived through this before. He preferred study, however, to scrubbing old manuscripts with a 5-haired Techford brush, which is what he would be employed to do in the Three Queens library all summer long. Across the alley ran in the bluestones of a private stable attached to some mansion's house a few streets away on a fashionable square. Beyond the stable roof, you could see the rounded tops of a few fruit trees. In the kitchen garden of Craig Hall, and above glowed the lancet windows of the dormitories and classrooms. When the girls forgot to draw their drapes, which was astoundingly often, you would see them in various stages of undress. Never the whole body naked, of course. In that case, he would have looked away or told himself sternly that he had better. But the pinkness and whiteness of undershirts and camisoles, the frilliness of foundation garments, the rustle about the bustle and the fuss of the bus. It was an educational laundry of nothing else. Bach, who had no sisters, merely liked. The Craig Hall dormitory was just far enough that he couldn't make out the individual girls, and Bach was flushed with desire to see his heart throb again. Damn, double damn. He couldn't concentrate. He'd be sent down if he queered his exams. He'd let down his father, old Fee, and his village and other villages. Hell and hell. Life was hard and barley just wasn't enough. Bach found himself suddenly leaping over the footstool, grabbing his student cape, charging down the corridors and plummeting around the stone spiral staircase in the corner. He couldn't wait anymore. He had to do something, and an idea came to him. He nodded to the porter on duty, turned and left the gate, and hurried along the road, in the dusk, avoiding as best as he could the generous heaps of horse manure. At least with his classmates off gallivanting, he would make no fool of himself in their line of vision. There wasn't a soul left in Briscoe. So he turned left and then left again, and soon was pacing the alley by the stable. A rick of cordwood, then protruding the edge of a swollen shutter, the iron back of a hoist. Bach was small, but he was nimble too, and with hardly a scrape of his knuckles, he had swung himself to the tin gutter of the stable and was scrambling like a crab up the deeply pitched roof. Aha! He might have thought of this months ago, but the night that the boys were all out celebrating, the night he could have been sure be himself wouldn't be seen from Briscoe Hall. That was tonight, and maybe only tonight. Some fate had insisted he resisted Avier's invitation out, for now he was mounted on the stable roof, and the wind coursing through the wet leaves of the crawberry and pear trees made a soft fanfare, and there was proceeding the girls into their hall, as if they'd been waiting in the corridor until he was properly positioned, as if they know he was coming. Closer up they were not, on the whole, as pretty. But where was the one? And pretty or not, they were clear. The fingers they dove into satin clumps of satin bow to untie them. The fingers they peeled gloves with, and working through cunning rows of 40 miniature pearls buttons with. The fingers they loaned at the inside laces and the private paces that college boys knew only by mythology. The expected tufts of hair, how tender, how marvelously animal-like. His hands clutched and unclutched themselves of their own accord, but hungry for what he hardly knew. And where was she? What the hell are you doing up here? So he slipped, of course, because he was startled, and because fate, having been so kind as to award him in the ecstasy, retributively was going to kill him now. He lost his footing and grabbed for the chimney, but missed. Head over thighs, he rolled out like a child's toy, smashed into the poking branches of the damn pear tree, which probably saved his life, breaking his fall. He landed with a thud on a bed of lettuce. and the wind was loudly knocked out of him, mortifyingly so, through all available orifices. "Oh, brilliant," said the voice. "The trees are dripping their fruits early this year." He had at last lost the hope the person speaking would be his love. He tried to look urbane, though his spectacles had bounced somewhere. "How do you do?" he said, uncertainly sitting up. This isn't how I intended to arrive." Barefoot and apron, she came out from an arbor of pink Pertha grape. It wasn't she, it wasn't the one, it was the other one. He couldn't even tell without his glasses. "Oh, it's you," he said, trying not to sound devastated. She had a calendar with baby grapes in it, the sour one used in spring salads. "Oh, it's you," she said, coming closer. "I know you. Master Bach, at your service." "You mean Master Bach in my lettuces." She picked up the spectacles from the runner, beads in hand in the back. "How are you, Miss Elfie?" "I am not as tart as a grape and not as squished as a lettuce," she said. "How are you, Master Bach?" "I am," he said, considerably embarrassed. "Am I going to get in trouble here?" "I can arrange it if you like." "Don't go to the effort. I'll let myself out the way I came in." He looked up at the pear tree. "Poor thing, I've splintered some good-sized limbs." "Pity the poor tree. Why would you do that to it?" "Well, I was startled," he said, "and I had a choice. Either flip myself like a wood nit through the leaves, or else just climb quietly down on the other side of the stable into the street and go back to my life. Which would you choose?" "Oh, that's the question," he said, "but I've always learned that the first thing to do is deny the question's validity." Myself, being startled, I would either climb quietly streetward, nor would I trip noisily treeward and lettuce bound. I would turn myself inside out to make myself lighter. I would hover over the air pressure outside me had stabilized. Then I would lift the underside of my skin settle, one toe at a time, back on the roof. "And then you would reverse your skin?" he said, entertained. "Depends on who was standing there and what they wanted and whether I minded. Also depends on the color the underside of my skin turned out to be. Never having reversed myself, you know, I can't be sure. I always thought it'd be horrid to be pink and white like a piglet." "It often is," said Bach, "especially in the shower. You feel like an underdone." But he stopped. The nonsense was becoming too personal. "I beg your pardon," he said. "I startled you and didn't mean to." "You were looking at the tops of the fruit trees, examining the new growth, I assume?" she said, amused. "Indeed," he said coldly. "Did you see the tree of your dreams?" "The tree of my dreams is the tree of my dreams, and I don't speak of that to my friends, nor you, whom I hardly know." "Oh, but you know me. We were in a trial play set together. You remind me when we met last year. Why, we're nearly brother and sister. You can certainly describe your favorite tree to me, and I'll tell you where she grows." "You mock me, Miss Elfie." "Well, I don't mean to do, Bach." She used his name without the honorific in a gentle way, as if to underscore her comment about them being like siblings. "I suspect you want to know about Miss Galinda, the Gillikinese girl you met at Madame Morville's poetry slaughter last autumn." "Perhaps you do know me better than I thought," he sighed. "Could I hope she thinks of me?" "Well, you could hope," said Elphaba. "It would be more efficient to ask her and be done with it. At least you know. But you're a friend of hers, aren't you, don't you know?" "You don't want to rely on what I know or not," said Elphaba, "or what I say to know. I could be lying. I could be in love with you and betray my roomie by lying about her." "She's your roomie? You're very surprised at that?" "Well, no, just pleased. The cooks will be wondering what dialogues with the asparagus I'm having now," Elphaba said. "I could arrange to bring Miss Galinda here some evening if you like. Sooner rather than later, as to kill your joy the more neatly and entirely, if that's what's to happen," she said. "But, as I say, how do I know? If I can't predict what we'll have for pudding, how can I predict someone's affections?" They set the date for 3 nights hence, and Bach thanked Elphaba fervently, shaking her head so hard his spectacles jounced on his nose. "You're a dear friend, Elfie, even if I haven't seen you in 15 years, he said, giving her back her name without its honorific. She withdrew beneath the boughs of the pear trees and disappeared down the walkway. Bach found out of his way of the kitchen garden and back to the room and reviewed his books again. Well, the problem wasn't solved, no, nor was it solved. It was exacerbated. He couldn't concentrate. He was still awake to hear the noisy clatterings, the hushings, the cravings, and the muttered balladeerings when the drunken boys returned to Briscoe Hall. And that's the end of that chapter. Thank you for listening.